Hey guys, welcome to today's episode of Talking Decon. To my left here is Ron Jeremy. Steve Miller. According to the fans, there is a good resemblance here. So you guys let me know what you think. Our director of marketing, and to my right here is Fiona Mills, our franchise ramp-up coach. Today
Who does not look like a serial rapist.
No.
And porn star from the 80s. So congratulations.
Thank you. Appreciate
You're welcome.
Rosie,
Yes.
let's begin.
Yes. Let's begin. All right, today, so I've got a pretty well-known case of the toolbox killer. Probably not for today's age group of people, but this was something that was really a big deal back in the 70s. Mm-hmm. So we're talking about the toolbox killer, which is Lawrence Bittaker and Roy Norris, and they did their killings in 1979. So
good, a tag team.
It was a tag team, but it's an odd relationship, and I'll go into a little bit more about it. But they ended up killing 5 different girls, and they both had a long history of a lot of various different criminal type stuff. So let's start with Lawrence Bittaker, and he was born in the 40s, and his biological mother gave him up for adoption, like right away. So the Bittaker family adopted him, and apparently they just were very nomadic. They traveled around a lot, and he wasn't able to really form any friendships and relationships because they were just constantly moving around. So he wasn't really too engaged with anyone, kind of a loner type guy, which again, we see that quite a bit. But the unique thing about Lawrence was that he was had an IQ of 138.
Ooh,
so
smarty.
He was a genius. He passed the genius level, kind of like me.
Sure.
Right around there, you know.
I think this entire group has 138
I think I'm 137 and a half, 139, right around there, you know. So the weird thing is, the guy was so smart that, and I think we see this, even today, that he's just bored with school. School is very regimented curriculum, and people that are either super smart or really not smart either get bored or just give up.
Right. That was the excuse I tried to give my parents.
Yeah, me
I'm
too.
just too smart for school.
Yeah, me too.
They're like, you can't color inside the lines. You're going back to kindergarten.
Yeah, I'm the best C student you'll ever meet.
Oh, solid. Average, baby.
Yeah. So he ends up dropping out of school, high school in 1957. He had tons of run-ins when he was a juvenile, but it was nothing kind of violent. It was like hit-and-run accidents, burglaries, theft, that type of stuff. Every time, we're seeing kind of a repetitive pattern here. He'd go into jail, and it was a revolving door. Go in, go out, go in, go out. There was just, like, the guy probably thought, I'm never going to have to pay for anything. I'm just going to keep doing whatever I want. So he had a psychiatric evaluation, and he was determined to have paranoid and borderline psychotic. With little control over his impulses. And despite the findings, they released him anyway.
Ah, yes. So here we have
Yes.
a career criminal with poor impulse control and psychopathy. We should probably release him into the wild.
Yeah. Just 2 months later, I know, you're thinking he joined the church and he's saved, right? No.
To be honest with you, not what I was thinking.
Not,
Fair point.
not what I was thinking. He got picked up again for parole violation and a suspected robbery, and again in October of 1964. So while in prison, he's given another psychiatric evaluation because the first one wasn't compelling enough.
Maybe we were off a little bit, even though all of his behavior points to the fact that this is the case. But sure, let's do another one.
Yeah. So I don't know if this is something that they do psychiatric evaluations on everyone. I was under the impression that it was violent crimes, but I could be wrong. Do you know different?
I don't, but maybe he was displaying patterns of behavior or something that are leading to it,
Yeah.
Maybe his attorneys said something. I don't know. It's a great question.
Yeah. So, again, he's arrested again and stabs a supermarket employee as he was shoplifting. The supermarket employee is chasing him, and to get away, he turns around and stabs the guy.
Look, man, that employee is a great employee. I'll be honest with
Yeah.
you.
Because the guy,
Did he die?
Bittaker stuffed a stake down his pants. The employee saw him and it was like, hey, guy, I saw it. Pull it out. He runs out in the parking lot. The employee chases him. I'm sure they're calling, 911
Sure,
and
of
everything.
course.
And Bittaker decides to take it from petty larceny all the way up to attempted murder.
Solid.
So the guy lived.
It's almost like what I'm reflecting back on this moment. It's almost like he has poor impulse control.
I just
I'm
hope it
gonna
was
be
a good
honest with
piece of
you.
steak.
I want to know what kind of steak it was.
Yeah.
Like if it was a ribeye, I get it.
Yeah,
that's
bone-in tomahawk cut ribeye
yeah.
for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, I totally get it. So after that, he goes back to prison, right? And he meets his new BFF, Norris, Roy Norris. Okay, so I always say, when people go into prison, jail and prison are very different. You go in with kind of a GED and you come out with a PhD because you learn from everybody around you, not unlike normal
of
life.
course.
And you get better at what you're going to do. You find out what your friends have done in prison, and you're like, especially white collar
You
crime.
compare notes. Oh,
Yep.
how did you get caught? I'll make sure to not do
Exactly.
that.
Exactly.
And that's why it's like so important to have some form of rehabilitation in prison for some people, not for everybody. I know that's not the most popular opinion here. If we reflect back to the pit games, but
Right. Exactly. The pit games. I think I'm going to name it that.
the pit games, yes,
The pit
absolutely.
games.
This is where we throw inmates into a pit, of course,
Yes.
and they fight for domination
Yes, exactly.
and entertainment. Excuse me.
And entertainment.
Yeah.
Don't forget that part.
But no, they sit around together. There's nothing else for them to
Exactly.
do. There's nothing but talking about
They're
things. How did you
masterminding.
exactly?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
What are you gonna do when you get out?
So while he's in prison there with his buddy Norris, he gets the other psychiatric evaluation, and this shrink rejected the borderline psychotic finding, but said he was a classic sociopath.
So still a major issue.
Yes.
Still a real problem.
But he also called him a sophisticated psychopath, probably because he was so intelligent, right?
All right. Yeah. That 138.
But despite the second psychiatrist's warning, they let him go again.
So we have multiple stints in jail. We have multiple.
People telling
Really
you this
bad
guy is
reports
a
from-
raging psychopath.
Yeah. Like let's not.
Yeah.
And still let's turn them loose.
Yeah.
Solid.
Okay, so before we get
I've
in,
made a lot of bad choices in my life.
but that's not one.
I've never even done that.
I think the best choice I've ever made is thinking of the pit games.
The pit games. All right, Evan, cut right here and put a cool graphic in that says the games.
And show the Squid Game, but pit.
And also pixelated a bit copyright claims.
Yeah. And inmate uniforms.
Yes.
We digress. Okay, so now let's start talking about his partner before we show them in conjunction with one
Sure.
another.
So what was this Peach up to before they met in
Okay,
prison?
so Roy Norris was drastically different than Bittaker, okay? He was kind of a big meathead, not very bright. They called him the muscle, whereas Bittaker was the brains.
Oh.
So together, they were quite scary.
So we got a real Master Blaster situation.
Yes.
Anybody? Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, Master Blaster? The little person rides on the shoulders of the big person? Master Blaster? Nobody? Come on. I can't be the only person that remembers Master Blaster.
Upload
Anyways.
visual now.
Yeah. Yes, Master Blaster. Right there.
Yeah, let's see that. I've got to see that.
Yeah. Yeah, it was great.
Was it like Mini-Me, just riding on the shoulder?
So he had like a rig on his back that he sort of was on his back, and I believe that he rode around on one was Master, I'm Master, he's Blaster. That's what they said.
That's pretty cool.
The Tina Turner, Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome.
No.
We don't need another hero.
Oh,
Nobody.
that I know.
Yeah. Okay.
Ike.
No, Ike's no good.
Ike's no-
Ike should be on an episode
Ike's
of Talking
no
Decon.
bueno. Talking
Yeah.
decon, Ike.
Seriously,
Talking
seriously.
decon.
Okay, so we got the muscle. I'm sorry.
All right, so
I
the
get distracted
muscle,
from 80s action movies.
Is, dumber than a box of nails, right? So he, at 17, drops out of school and decides, I'm going to go to the Navy. Okay. So he spent most of his service stationed in San Diego, but he did do 4 months in Vietnam.
Okay.
Vietnam, baby! But he saw no combat. Okay, so there's
Right, so there's no
there's
PTSD
no
issues.
exactly.
Okay.
And I want to mention that because no matter what he says the reason is,
Okay.
Yeah. So, back in San Diego, he was arrested in November of '69 for attempted rape. Okay, so unlike Bittaker, he started everything was sexual for him and everything was violent. So when Bittaker was, he was doing theft and burglary
Oh, right.
and stuff.
Yeah.
Roy Norris was a straight up rapist.
From the jump, he's a
From
rapist,
the
yeah.
get-go, he had issues. So, attempted rape, what's the penalty for that? Oh, it's 3 months in prison. 3 months.
60s were wild, son.
Yeah. And
3 months.
gets out on bail right before his trial. He's arrested again before the trial even happens. He tries to attack another woman in her home, but police arrived before he could harm her. Then the Navy's like, yeah, he's got psychological problems. Discharge. So at least the Navy is doing
the Navy
the right
did the right
thing.
thing for sure.
The criminal justice system is like, no, you can't rape her.
Out on bail,
Yeah.
attempts to rape somebody else. Like
Before the trial for the first one
Yeah.
happens, okay? So then
more poor impulse control.
that was November of 69. Fast forward to May of 70. He's still out on bail. Okay, now 2 attacks on women. Out on bail again.
At what point do we reject bail?
I have no idea.
Like,
Apparently not this point.
Apparently
Right.
not.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, after he got discharged from the Navy, he was out on bail, because the Navy said he had psychological problems, and he attacked a female student at San Diego State University. But this one was brutal. He jumped the woman from behind and hit her in the head with a rock, then slammed her head several times on the concrete. The woman actually survived.
Wow.
And they don't mention her name. I was going to try to look her up and see, did she have brain injuries or anything? But the up part about it all is they charged him with assault with a deadly weapon instead of attempted murder.
That makes no sense to me. Like, how could that possibly not be attempted murder?
I don't get it. I really don't. Like, how many times does this guy have to show you his ass? This is 3
Yeah.
attacks.
And he's out on bail still on the other ones, right? Like,
Exactly.
he's still like,
Yep.
So he's still out on bail for multiple attempted rapes, and
Right.
then he's assault with a deadly weapon. This is unbelievable.
Right. So instead of sending him to prison, they sent him to a mental hospital. He actually spends 5 years
like
there,
that.
right? But then, I know you're shocked, they released him saying he's no further danger to anyone else. However, he proves them wrong 3 months later.
Okay,
That's
so
it.
this is again. I'm not the smartest person in the world, and I don't know how to fix almost any problem. Anybody that's seen me stare
He's
at a
not
car
giving
that,
himself enough credit.
well, look, anybody that's seen me stare at a car that doesn't start knows that. Like,
Yeah.
well, I guess we call AAA now.
Yeah.
But 5 years in a mental hospital, I don't think that you can cure somebody from being a rapist. Like, that's not personally. I've never heard of that happening. But let's stipulate the fact that you could. Let's say that they're right, that you can fix this person's brain wiring to make them disconnect sex and power and violence and all that stuff. He still should be serving time in prison. Bless you.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's quite all right. I don't know why I said it's all right. I'm not in charge of anything. We know this. But, you did 5 years. Mentally, we fixed your brain. But shouldn't you still have to do a great deal of time for what should have been attempted murder and for what were attempted rapes as well? Like, how is 5 years enough for that?
Well, what is the barrier here that we're saying he's now okay and not a threat to anyone? Like, who is making that assessment? And if it's a
Right.
shrink, why aren't we holding these people accountable?
That's a great point. Like, you should immediately be like, well, you're off this board.
Because,
know.
I've got to wonder how many of these decisions are made financially. Hey, he's been here 5 years. We need the bed.
It wouldn't be surprising.
I would not be
It
surprised.
wouldn't be surprising at all. As depressing and as mind-blowing as it is,
I think he's a perfect candidate for the.
The Pit Games.
And there's our theme song.
Yeah, exactly. If you don't know what the Pit Games is, go back to the other episode where Laura lays out her vision
Yes.
for an incredibly violent society where murder is entertainment.
Yes.
Pit Games.
Yes, exactly. I love it. So, as I was saying, 3 months later, he attacked and raped a 27-year-old woman. He was finally convicted of forcible rape and sent to California's state colony in San Luis Obispo.
Okay, so we have convicted of forcible rape.
4.
We have
Yeah.
right, and then we have
War
all
crimes,
these charges before it. So
Yep.
I'm sure now he'll spend the rest of his life in jail. What a great story.
Yes. However, no. But this is where he meets his new BFF, Lawrence Bittaker. Okay?
It's good they found each other.
Yes, they found each other. Norris claims that Bittaker saved his life twice in prison, which I wouldn't doubt because Norris is the beefy one, right? Bitteker's the frail little genius. So that kind of bound them together according to prison code. Okay.
Oh, right.
So now they're BFF, right? So they hatched this plan while they're both in prison together and spending all this time together that they are going to rape and kill local girls when they get out together. So this plan was extremely detailed and involved. So they bought, once they got out, they bought a 1977 GMC cargo van. I like to call it the child molester van. You know, the ones with
Oh,
no-
okay.
Oh, sure, yeah.
I
the
knew
old
exactly
school
what you were
panel
talking about
vans.
as you said that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody knows it. Like when you see those vans, you're like, you always wonder, is there somebody in there?
Like, you know how felons can't own guns or vote?
Yes. You
Right.
should
They
be
should be
able
able
to
to buy
own
a
that.
van. Yeah. Like, hi, yes, I'd like to buy this van. I need to see your criminal record. You can't not have
There
this
is
van. Are
no
you out of
good
your mind?
reason. You know, we have vans with no windows, but they're wrapped with company stuff. There should be
Right.
no good reason not to have a window. I'm just saying.
No, it's outrageous.
Yeah. So guess what they called their van? Murder Mac.
Oh, how cute.
Yes.
How fitting.
Yeah.
Outfit. They actually like went as far as naming their van. Oh, there's more. So what they did is they outfitted the van to have a bed inside and a secret bottom thing, like under the platform of the bed. They built drawers where they could put their toolbox. This is where the toolbox came in. Okay.
See, so far I'm like, a van with a bed, that sounds pretty nice.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just want to get away from it all, but when
Yeah.
you got murder tools underneath the bed,
I think today's date we call that RV life.
yeah, it's van life, son.
Yeah,
Hashtag
van life,
life.
baby. Hashtag van life. Not so much in
No.
1977.
Yeah.
So they were working tirelessly to outfit this van. You know, everybody else is doing their 9 to 5 and trying to do good things. Nope. These guys had a master plan. So there's no side windows on it, and there's like a large passenger side door. You know how it kind of
Sure,
opens
sliding
up.
door, yeah.
So they wanted to give their plan a test run first. So they actually were like scoping out the area.
Now they're rehearsing.
Yeah,
Cool.
they were rehearsing everything. Like, where are we going to take these girls? Like, they wanted to focus on the beach area because they figured it was low-hanging fruit. There'd be a lot of pretty girls around there. So they were testing along the Pacific Coast Highway, which is very famous.
Sure,
right?
of course,
Beach
beautiful.
area. They stopped at the beaches. They talked to the girls. And then one of the things that when they finally got arrested, they found over 500 photos that they had taken of these random girls. So they were literally scoping everybody out.
You know what's extra creepy about that too is that it's the 70s. Like nowadays, obviously, it's super creepy if you
Yeah.
find some dude that's got 500 pictures of random girls on his phone. For sure, a red flag. But you got to buy equipment. You got to get things developed.
They were Polaroids.
You know, oh, Polaroids.
Yeah, they were
Okay.
Polaroids.
That's still creepy.
And they were
obviously, but-
keeping them as like souvenirs. So there's more souvenirs. So they feel like they're ready, right? They've done their test runs. They've done their photos. They picked their place. So they find their first victim, June 24th, 1979, 16-year-old Cindy Schaefer. Now, the original plan was they agreed that they would have a girl for every teen year. So they wanted 13 through 18, 19, and they wanted one of each age. Now,
That's
how you find that out before, I guess you would have to ask their age as you're mingling and then say, oh, we need a 14. It was almost
Right.
like, what's that game? Like you need that
Go
one
fish?
card. Go fish.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I need a 14-year-old. Grab
yeah.
her.
Need him, got him.
So
need
that
him,
what
need
it
him.
was. So this one was kind of at random because they just started. So she's 16. They picked her up near Redondo Beach. Norris, Beefy Norris, forced her into the van. He duct taped her mouth and bound her arms and legs. So Bittaker was always the one to drive the van. Now, the place that they picked to dump their bodies was San Gabriel Mountains, which was really out of sight of the highway. It was kind of a remote area there.
Right.
So both men raped the girl. They took turns while they gave the others privacy. They literally called it, I'll give you
Oh.
some privacy.
But I'm going to sit in
Charming.
the driver's seat.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
he walked out and had a cigarette. Well, and then they switched. So they both raped the girl, and Bittaker wrapped a straightened wire coat hanger around her neck. So the way that they kind of described is they twisted it. So they didn't like dismantle the hanger and then just go like that. He literally slowly
That is
twisted
so
it.
the
Sadistic.
length of time that would
Yes.
take, and the fear, the amount of fear that's being
Yes.
imposed onto that victim. It's haunting, man.
Well, this is where the toolbox comes in, right? So he realizes I can't do it with my hand. It's not killing her. It's just
Oh.
so he gets the vice grip and starts doing it and then strangles her. So he wraps her body in a plastic shower curtain and just dumps it in the canyon.
Just like trash.
Yep, just like
Just throw it
trash.
over like trash.
Yep. So then, a couple weeks later, July 8th, they pick up 18-year-old Andrea Hall, who was hitchhiking. Again, hitchhiking wasn't very
Yeah, it was a
rare.
thing. It was
now
yeah.
it's like, are you insane? But late 70s, that wasn't
Yeah.
a deal at all. That wasn't a big deal. So Norris hid in the back of the van because they figured that both of them sitting in the front together would be too intimidating for a girl to get in there. So
Makes
they thought,
sense.
2 against 1, right? So he hides in the back of the van, and Bittaker offers her a drink from the cooler. So she gets in the car, and she's like, yeah, I'm going down that way. And he goes, hey, you want a beer in the back? She's like, yeah, sure. So she walks to the back, and he's hiding under that platform. He grabs her, and they start to scuffle. He tapes her mouth shut, binds her arms and legs, with the duct tape, and they took her to a fire road, raped her several times. Bittaker dragged her from the van, and Norris left to go get beer.
Oh, sure, because we're having a party.
When Norris returned, the girl was gone, and Bittaker was looking at Polaroid pictures of her. He stabbed her with an ice pick in both ears and strangled her. He threw her body over the cliff.
So now we're ratcheting it up. Now we're
I
ice picking
literally
ears.
Cringed. Ice pick in the eardrum.
Yeah, it gives you a feeling. It gives you a feeling.
That is just pure torture. And when I read some more about that, I learned that you're not going to die from that. It's just the most excruciating f***ing pain you'll ever feel in your life. Yeah. And apparently all you hear is blood draining in your head.
Why can't it just kill you?
Yeah, just kill me, man. Just kill me. Yeah.
Please, there's an ice pick in my f***ing ear.
Yeah. So September 3rd, a couple months later, driving near Hermosa Beach, the pair spotted 2 girls at a bus stop bench and offered them a ride. Jackie was 15 and Leah Lamp was 13, and they accepted their offer. So there you go. You got 2 more ages to fill in here. The girls became suspicious when Bittaker parked the van near a suburban tennis court, because that's not where they asked to go.
Right.
So Lamp went for the back door. Norris hit her in the head with a bat.
Ah.
Yeah. Because she's 13 and you couldn't subdue her.
Right. That's a
You had to hit her
very
in the
good
head
point.
with
This
a
guy's
bat.
this big,
He's huge.
beefy.
He's huge.
Right, yeah.
He's like, I think he said was 6'1", 225 pounds.
And I feel like back
dude.
then, kids were smaller than they are now.
Yeah.
It seems like it, doesn't it?
So it's
Yeah, now
Yeah.
we have Cheez-Its and stuff, and we're all fat as Yeah, totally. So they broke out in a fight, and Bittaker starts to help Norris subdue the teens, and they bind them both, right? So Bittaker drives them to the fire road again. They feel safe
their
at this
spot.
fire
Yeah,
road.
they got
Yeah,
their
that's their
spot.
spot now. So they kept the girls alive for 2 days. This is the longest, okay? Raping and torturing them the entire time with wire hangers and pliers.
Yeah, man. I just it's. What can you even say about that? I mean, 2 days. Whatever happened to these guys is not good enough, because 2 days that's a nightmare.
For
It's a
young
living
girls
nightmare.
like that to think,
Yeah.
oh my God. So the torture is what got them off and what really excited them so much that they audio recorded it. And that's how the parents were able to identify their kids off of the screams.
They had to listen.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah.
No way, man.
Yeah. So these poor girls lived through that, and he's audio recording them, and as he's torturing them, he's telling them to scream more because he likes it. He's getting off on it, right? So eventually, Bittaker stabs Gillum in both ears with an ice pick. He's
These ice
loving
picks.
the torture of it
Yeah.
all, right? When she didn't succumb to her injuries, both men took turns strangling her until she died. Bittaker then strangled Lamp, the 13-year-old, while Norris hit her in the head with a sledgehammer 7 times.
I
A 13-year-old.
She's already been hit in the head with a baseball bat. You know,
She's got to be
already been-
bleeding
It's
profusely.
But
gotta-
even one hit with a sledgehammer, like,
What's left?
yeah.
For hit 2 through 7.
So
Oh my
according
God.
to,
See, I'll watch them in the pit.
yeah. See?
Okay, yeah, they should be in the pit.
Yeah.
They
These
should
guys
be
should
in
be
pit
in the pit.
games. Yeah. See, now you guys are coming around. I like it. So
Took a minute,
here's
but
the f***ed up
Is
thing,
this
okay?
whole thing just one long pitch for the pit games?
It is. It
this
is.
is the intro.
It is. It's the intro for it. I'm getting you guys ready for the kind of
Yeah.
clientele I'm looking for here. So the f***ed up thing, among others, is that in other reports, they stated that these girls were tortured with the pliers. They were ripped open anally, vaginally, and their nipples were ripped off with pliers. They were some of them were even electrocuted. They hooked up batteries to clamps, and I mean they enjoyed the torture of it all.
Yeah.
They were both just totally getting off on it. I mean, it's one thing to take photos, but audio recording the screams and the torture
It's
of
the
it.
pain and the fear they get off on. I think
And
it's
they kept
sexual
them all.
sadism,
Yep.
right?
So after they hit her in the head with the sledgehammer, they dumped both bodies over the cliff. The f***ed up thing is the ice picks were still in Gillam's head when they found her decomposed body. She was just a skull left. The freaking ice pick was all the way through, and you could see it all the way almost to her mouth. He rammed it that f***ing much.
I just can't imagine finding anything scarier, right? Like, obviously, living through this is the ultimate nightmare. It's horrific, but like if you're hiking along and you come across a skull with 2 ice picks sticking in it, like that must be the most horrifying thing.
Well, police found it. No one else did.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah,
Okay,
and
well, yeah, that's
I'll
true. They're
get into
searching
that.
for it.
So, yeah. So, next, they kidnapped Shirley Sanders on September 30th. And instead of trying to coerce her, they maced her. So, instead of, you know how they were trying to do the sweet talking,
they've
you
given
want a
up on the
beer, you
charm.
want to ride,
Yeah.
they're like, it. So, they force her, they mace her. They both raped her, but she escaped.
Ooh, good for her.
Okay, yeah. I don't know how she escaped, but she escaped. So police showed her pictures of the men, and she identified the men as Lawrence and Roy Bittaker.
Wow.
And Norris. Yeah.
She's a badass, huh?
Yes, she is. Amazing, Shirley Sanders. So they kidnapped 16-year-old Lynette Ledford on October 31st. So they hadn't picked him up yet. They raped and tortured her while driving around Los Angeles instead of heading to their usual mountain location.
Oh, I wonder if it's because they knew
I
that
think they were
yeah,
worried. They were like, that one got away.
Right.
The bad part is I couldn't find any details exactly how she got away and what she went through, what she saw. Was she able to know that they recorded? You know,
Right.
I didn't get any details of that. That would be great to find that out. So they're driving around LA, taking turns raping her. And then Bittaker stabbed the young girl several times and tortured her with the pliers. Again, anally and vaginally. During her torture, her screams and pleas were tape recorded as Bittaker repeatedly beat her elbows with a sledgehammer.
I mean, there's so many head moves here, and I don't know why I'm still surprised by it.
Yeah.
But there's something about that particular one where it's just
That's
like,
just, I hit it here and I'm crying.
yeah, forget it. And repeatedly hitting with a sledgehammer?
16-year-old girl, but she's starting to go in and out of
I would
pain,
imagine.
right?
Yeah.
Well, he decides to shock her and electrocute her nipples and keep screaming at her, don't stop screaming. Stay awake, don't stop screaming. Like it's getting him off, right? He eventually strangles her with a wire hanger, using the pliers to twist a cinching loop around her throat.
So
that
just
again,
slowly
that
turning
slow
it. Yeah.
turn, right? Instead of tossing her body over the cliff, they left it in a random lawn in Hermosa Beach to see the local reaction in the newspaper. So now they're getting bold.
Right.
They're getting almost like,
We want some
we
recognition
want some
now for
freaking
this.
credit for this. Yeah.
Like they're proud of themselves.
Right.
The body was found the next day and caused quite a stir because apparently it had only been a couple days since they arrested the Hillside Strangler. So people were on edge.
I mean, the 70s. What the The 70s.
Yeah.
You know, so the Hillside Stranglers are going off. They just get arrested.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, these two guys are running wild in the streets, and so they finally arrest the Hillside Stranglers. I would imagine the whole city's like, let's let's breathe a sigh of relief. Thankfully,
Yep.
this is over. And then boom, a
And then another
16-year-old
one pops
body. Ugh.
But wasn't there I know Bundy was also in that same time, of course,
Sure.
in Florida.
Yeah.
But then wasn't John Wayne Gacy also in the West Coast?
No, he was Indiana, I
Oh,
believe.
okay.
He was
Was he
Midwest,
Indiana?
I believe.
Okay. But that was also in the
but
same
there
time
was
period.
Richard Ramirez, who was the Night Stalker. There's, I mean,
You had
yeah.
the vampire killer out in the 70s.
Yeah,
as well.
that
Yeah.
time period produced a lot of sickos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think we talked about this before, but there's some interesting theories to that with regards to lead and gasoline, because like
Mm-hmm.
lead poisoning, violence, extreme violence is a part of lead poisoning. There was lead in everything until they started eliminating it. And anyways, yeah.
So
sorry.
any guesses on how you think the guy got caught? The two guys got caught.
I hope it has something to do with the fact that woman that escaped and ID'd him.
Were they speeding? I wouldn't be surprised.
No, but yeah, that's both good. Excuse me, both very good guesses. So Norris, the dumb one, is talking to one of his prison friends, Jimmy Dalton, about all the murders that him and his new BFF have committed, right? But Dalton thought that he was just telling stories and lying. But he talked to his lawyer, and his lawyer told him, you need to tell LAPD about this.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that's
He
how
was
they
bragging.
got caught. He was bragging, and they got caught. So I'm sure Bittaker, the genius, is thinking,
Hey,
that's what
dummy.
I get for trusting
Yeah.
a dummy, right? So at the trial, both Norris and Bittaker were charged with murder, kidnapping, forcible rape, sexual perversion, and criminal conspiracy. They
Sexual
got 1
perversion's
week
an
in
odd
jail. Just kidding. Just kidding. Although quite possible. Bittaker was convicted of rape, torture, kidnapping, and murder of in 1981 and sentenced to death. So they said basically he's the mastermind of it, and the other guy's, just his bumbling friend. So as of February 2008, Bittaker was on death row. We know now that he died in 2019, just of normal old age.
Oh, that's right, because California eliminated the death penalty.
Yep.
Okay.
And believe
like,
it or
how'd you
not,
get it?
he continually applied for release and was denied every time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
That's a parole board I'd like to be on.
yeah.
For real, bro? Like, just sit back when they walk in? Mm-hmm. Hey, man.
But get this. So he's on death row, and there's so much publicity and notoriety around all these killings that he starts getting all this mail, right, from all these sickos. He writes these people back and signs his name, Pliers Bittaker.
Oh, what a piece of shit. What just a gross, horrible piece of
Yeah.
shit.
So they found the van, obviously, the little toolbox. That's where he got the name Toolbox Killer, because they kept just pulling out various tools to use to torture these girls. And he was just living it up on the notoriety of what he's done. I mean, he's a sick fuck. A sick
Yeah.
fuck. And when he was on trial, I saw some video of him being on trial. He had absolutely no remorse. When he was talking about it, it almost excited him.
Like he's reliving it.
He's
reliving that
reliving it,
moment. Yeah.
and the poor police officers that had to listen to the hours and hours of video and the photos, because he's sitting there getting off on the photos, and it was just horrible. Horrible.
And so Norris winds up, he was never given the death penalty. Norris wasn't?
No, Norris was given life in prison.
I just think they both should have gotten the death penalty.
I agree.
don't
I
get
mean, they
it,
were in
man.
cahoots with one
don't
another.
get it.
And the weird part is Norris actually started out much more violent than Bittaker did.
Yeah, which is wild, right?
Mm-hmm. It's almost like Norris brought it out of Bittaker. Like,
Right.
hey, I have to rape, and Bittaker's like, well, I love the torture. So it was one of these
I
things.
just feel like when you torture someone like that, like you should get the same treatment.
Yeah, you're straight up Hammurabi's Code. You're eye for an eye.
Like
I agree.
Yeah.
That's how I feel.
Well, see, this is surprising
The
then
pit
because
games.
you were opposed
Yeah.
to the pit games
Yes,
last
thank
time
you.
we talked.
Thank you.
And now
Yeah,
it seems
but I
like,
said when there's kids, it's different.
Do I hear
Right.
two-faced?
All right,
Come
Rosie.
on now. Come on.
But no, I feel like when you put torture on someone else, you should receive the same.
yeah, it doesn't
torture.
feel. It's so tough because it doesn't feel like justice.
No.
Like you do all those things, you torture and kill these people, and then you spend the rest of your life in prison. It doesn't feel satisfying in any way.
And it sucks too because it's like, right,
Not that there
so
anything is, but
life in prison, right? Like you just live out your life, but yet we're paying for it.
But
Right.
let me
Right?
ask you
But then
something.
if they go for the death penalty, I feel like you shouldn't be just killed because you deserve to suffer.
But is
Right,
it
it's like
suffering
but
not,
it
now?
it's not enough, right?
But that's what I'm
okay,
saying.
so
Like,
if you did whatever, if you were given the choice between death penalty or life in prison, what would you choose?
Me, I
Yes.
always think I'd want to choose the death penalty.
Me too.
so would I.
Because I have no interest in being in prison forever. Like,
so it
okay,
always shocks me to see, why are these guys fighting the death penalty? Are you kidding?
the exception being if I was innocent. If I was
Well,
innocent, I would
obviously.
hold out hope that I'd
Yeah.
be like, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Right.
I just don't understand why they would want to. And then when you're on death row, it's a 23 in, 1 out. So, and I think it's 2 showers a week or something like that. And, once a month rapes or whatever it is. But you're in a tiny cage by yourself.
It's a nightmare, dude.
But
it's
again,
not enough of a nightmare
I
for
think
these
it's a
people, but-
nightmare for us because we're playing with a full deck.
True.
These guys, I don't know. Do they sit there and they relive it? I mean, what do you do with that much
Well, they must.
solitude?
The fact that people are writing them is wild too. So they're still having correspondence.
Well, there's
with
sick
people,
f***s
talking to
everywhere.
people.
I mean,
Yeah.
Bundy had the same thing. Love
Oh, yeah.
letters and all that stuff.
Yeah,
It's just weird.
yeah. I would
On
definitely.
both ends of that spectrum, it's weird.
Yeah.
Like people that write them, like why?
And I also
Yeah.
have never really understood the electric chair. Why aren't we just doing the
Lethal injection.
The lethal injection.
I don't know.
It just seems
It seems antiquated. It seems
it's very
outdated.
antiquated. Yeah, like
I'd even be fine
you
with
might
a
as well
bullet in
bring the
back of the head.
guillotine back.
Well, yeah, but that's I think an
pit
idea.
games.
Yeah, I mean that's something that you'd be into. Like I'm
Yes.
surprised you're not into the electric chair, to be honest with you.
No, I just think it's not painful enough.
Oh, I imagine that the electric chair would be much worse
It's
than
too
lethal
quick.
injection.
It's no, it's
No.
coursing through your.
You
guess-
feel that go through
yeah,
you.
you feel
Like,
it go
it's
through your
like, You
veins.
feel the course of it.
But the first shot is a sedative, which I don't agree with.
no.
They should go straight to the heart stop.
Yes.
Yeah. But then if it's straight to the heart stop, yeah, because now again we're coming back to torturing people as the government.
You
which
can't
is
do that, but
problematic.
you can voluntarily ask them if they want to join the pit games. Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is such a tough case. This is such a difficult one to hear about. I mean, all of them are. None of them are like, hey, that was a pretty good one. Let's go out for brunch. But there's something about this one. It feels particularly egregious. The fact that these two guys found each other, the fact that these two guys over and over again were released when they obviously shouldn't have been. If you're sitting there alone right now thinking to yourself, I'm never going to meet somebody, you might meet somebody.
It's crazy that they didn't
get
get found when the girl went and reported him. Right? Like,
Well, and that's one of the issues that I had was there was no elaboration on that.
Yeah.
Like it just said that she basically ID'd him. Does that mean that the cops were just looking everywhere for him? Because it doesn't say, I don't think they were living anywhere. They were literally just living in the van. So they probably couldn't find them, but it doesn't give any information on what happened to her.
yeah.
Because I can guarantee you that poor woman has some serious PTSD.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean,
Absolutely.
I'd be locking with 75 locks on the door, you know,
Yeah.
and never go out again.
She stays strapped, son.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what
Exactly.
That's what cool young people like me say.
So it's just scary to know that people like that live right among us.
Oh, it's the stuff of nightmares.
It really is.
Like when we get nervous about boogeymen and when we get out of bed to make sure that the window's locked because we're worried that maybe we didn't lock it. Like those are the people.
Yes.
That's the thing.
Exactly.
And it's so much of that like traumatizes us as a society. We don't hitchhike anymore. We don't leave our windows open anymore. Like
Yeah.
because we know like these stories
No, we
are
just pay for an Uber.
yeah, exactly, which is
Yeah.
better
We'll
anyway.
just pay for
Yeah.
you to kill us instead.
Yeah.
But it's scarred us as a society, and understandably so. You hear that story, you're like, yeah, I think I'm done hitchhiking forever.
Yeah. I was reading or watching a documentary of a woman that was interviewing him, Bittaker, and she spent 5 years interviewing with him. And she said that initially when she tried to get him to talk, he just blew her off. But she was extremely persistent to the point where she called him constantly, like on the phone, and she was visiting the prison to get him to talk. And she's basically researching how did you become the way you did?
How do you land here?
So after 5 years, I mean, some of the conversations that she was having with him were making me very uncomfortable. It was almost like they were BFFs. And he was just extremely arrogant, laughing about stuff. Like this guy had no regret. It seemed like he was just perfectly comfortable in prison. He had no problems with anything. And she was kind of giving her side of it. And she basically said that, after 5 years together, she knew him pretty damn well.
I would imagine.
Yeah.
You spend 5 years with anybody, and then you kind of have to develop a bond too, right? Because you're trying to get information out of me. Doesn't want to give you that
unfortunately.
information.
Yeah.
That job.
I know. No way.
You know what I mean? Like, I know it's important work. I'm not saying it's not important work, but how was work today? Well, Bittaker told me about the time that he strangled this woman
Yeah.
and ripped her nipples off with the
Exactly.
pliers. No.
And she said, like, he's
No.
explaining it all and he's like excited about it. Like you're talking about something that you just accomplished that was amazing, and he's just bragging about it. And I don't know how she just sat there with a straight face, but she would say stuff like, "Do you have any regrets?" And he's like, "No." Like, are you crazy? Why would I?
Yeah.
So it was just gnarly. So this one was also a suggestion by a fan who I don't remember your name, and I apologize. Several people actually brought up the Toolbox Killer, so thank you for bringing that up, and thank you for watching today's episode. Don't forget to follow us on TikTok and Instagram at Crime Scene Cleaning. Have a great day.